Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. It's great to have you on the channel today. We're going to be looking at the tropics and then your winter storm outlook. What is going on with the GFS across the southern Caribbean for the first part of December? Something is trying to pop up here. We'll explore all the details on the potential of this. And switching over to winter storm mode, if you haven't caught my winter 2025-26 outlook forecast for this entire winter for cold and snow, check that out. A link in the description down below and at the end of this video. And especially right after Thanksgiving here, we're going to be looking towards our big Arctic blast with the polar vortex with wintry precipitation, lake effect, and some big snowstorm potential into the early part of December. Let's get into it. All right, so starting off with the tropics here, we're going to start off kind of quiet here. Look at this. So as we stretch through the rest of the weekend into the first part of the week, we got some showers and thunder showers across Central America here, parts of Honduras, Belize in particular. As we stretch through Monday into Tuesday, you can see a flare up here down towards Trinidad, Tobago. Some scattered showers up through Puerto Rico, eastern parts of Dominican Republic. But look at this, Jamaica for the relief efforts, the cleanup efforts. It's looking all right, especially this week. We're looking pretty good for the most part. Very dry. So that's great. Now we have showers and thunder showers moving through the Lesser Antilles as we stretch through the 28th into the 29th. Now you do start to see this right around Colombia. I know this is pretty far to the south to be watching for any sort of spin-ups. Now we're going to see if the Europeans really grabbing onto this like the GFS is. GFS the last couple runs has gone nuts with this, so We'll take a look at this. And here it is right around November 30th. So this is a bit out. We have plenty of time to watch this. I really do think the GFS is kind of hinting at development, but at this part of the game, it seems like more than likely a disturbance is more than likely. But there it is right around December 1st, after the last day of official hurricane season. The GFS is trying to spin this up. Now, it is pretty far to the south, so it is possible that we could see, some glimmers where you get the wind shear slackening, but there is a lot of wind shear. There's a lot of dry air around as well. But I think the main threat with this would be very heavy rain. The Euro does kind of hint at this, but not this kind of development. GFS going crazy with this right around, look at this, December 1st. Nearing the northern coastline of Nicaragua, you see most of the rest of the Caribbean pretty quiet with the exception of the Northeast Caribbean islands where you will see some showers moving in. Yeah, this looks overdone by the GFS. Shows a landfalling tropical storm or potentially a low-end hurricane here. Then moving into Honduras here with torrential, life-threatening rain. Now, that's the part I'm concerned about. Not that this could develop. Do I think this will develop into a named storm? Very, very highly unlikely at this point. But I am concerned about torrential rain across parts of Nicaragua, Honduras, even all the way down to Costa Rica. Belize, here we get towards December 2nd. Look at this. It does start to bog down. Our next frontal boundary, our trough, is way up here across the northwestern Gulf, which the European has it more further to the south, so we'll explore that as we look at the European. But here it is. Shows another area right along the coastline here all the way up to Cancun where the moisture is being funneled north with this low-pressure system. So GFS continuing to try to close off this low and move across the Yucatan and then emerging this into the Gulf, which I think is highly unlikely. As I said before, the European has the trough more in this range, which would any sort of disturbance would steer it more towards this direction. So I'm a little skeptical this trying to get into the Gulf like this. Wind shear, dry air would be running pretty high at this point, but we'll keep an eye on it because right around this time, I'll show you on the wind shear maps that wind shear does start to slacken a little bit just to the west here. But, this thing would have to be much further west to actually get into the Gulf and not so far to the east for any development. So yeah, highly unlikely. Now, a disturbance? Quite possible. And if it does get itself attached to the base of this trough, we could look at some sort of heavy rain potential, gusty winds as well. Now look at this Eastern Caribbean. This is a pretty interesting feature. Do I think there's any development out here? Not really. Look at this. let me just put this into motion. This is coming in from the northeast, and then you have a surge of moisture here on the eastern end of this. This is nothing really to worry about. However, you do have to worry about some torrential rain out of this potentially through the northeast Caribbean islands. So as we stretch through the rest of the first week of December, we'll watch out for that. So looking over to the European model for this potential across the southern Caribbean in the early part of December, is the European picking up on it? Well, as we go through, here we go, right around into Monday into Tuesday, you see that moisture across parts of northern Honduras, Belize. We also have some moisture hung up across the northern and central Lesser Antilles, Trinidad, Tobago area, and a lot of moisture here locked up around Costa Rica over towards Nicaragua. So that's going to continue. Looks like Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, stay mostly dry for this week. Through at least Thursday and Friday. Now, we do start to get this frontal boundary pushing in from the north here across the southern Gulf, northern Bahamas, South Florida, so we're going to get some heavy rain with that. Now, we do start to see something try to take shape here across the extreme southern Caribbean around November 29th. Lots of heavy rain through Cancun, parts of the Cayman Islands here, so we'll be watching out for that. This is that area that the GFS was slowly picking up here on. Just northwest of Colombia, South America here. European is showing a low-pressure center trying to form east of Nicaragua. It is much weaker on the European. A lot more moisture locked up here across the northeast Caribbean islands through Trinidad, Tobago as well, so we'll watch out for some of these tropical waves. That one looks pretty potent as it moves through Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic area right around December 3rd. And then pivoting towards Jamaica right around December 4th here. So that's probably Jamaica's biggest chance of rain over the next 2 weeks, right around Thursday, December 4th here. That moves towards the northwest here. But you can see the European's not blowing up what the GFS was showing here across the southern Caribbean, quite like the GFS is showing. GFS is showing a tropical storm blowing up here, whereas the European, it was showing something here, but nothing like any sort of development. Maybe a tropical disturbance with torrential flooding rain that we'll have to watch out for. But at this point, it's a wait-and-see thing, likely siding with the European on this. Sea surface temperatures are continuing to support these light tropical waves across the Caribbean and Western Atlantic. We'll continue to watch it here, not expecting any development, but flood threat in isolated areas will continue to be a concern. Looking at our Western Caribbean tropical surge of moisture through Central America, it mainly misses Jamaica and the Eastern Cayman Islands. Western Cayman Islands, you get up towards 50 millimeters here. Jamaica, for the most part, eking out with 20, 30, maybe as much as 50 millimeters on the eastern part of the island towards Portland Parish. But look at eastern parts of Dominican Republic as well, up towards 50, 60 millimeters. The northeast coastal areas could get close to 100. Puerto Rico, you're looking at about an inch and a half to 2 inches on average here over to St. Croix as well. But the big surge is going to be across Belize. This has backed off a bit. Most areas staying under 200 millimeters, which is great news, all the way up to Cancun, where we'll be up towards 75 millimeters. Much of the moisture is down through Costa Rica here and eastern Nicaragua. Liquid equivalent precipitation amounts here on the GFS. Now, it's going to look different than the Euro because the GFS is trying to develop that potential system into a tropical storm or even a hurricane, which is kind of absurd, but we'll keep an eye on it here. There it is. It's something we need to keep an eye on. However, the good news with this, even the GFS keeps it more progressive. So there it is. Nicaragua, 273 millimeters. Northern coastline of Honduras, right around 175, 200 millimeters. Belize, up through 220 to 250 millimeters. All the way up to Cancun, right around 117 millimeters. Now look at Jamaica, the Cayman Islands. Parts of Haiti, Dominican Republic, almost nothing here. But yeah, Jamaica, right around 10, 15, maybe as much as 50 millimeters on the eastern end of the island here. But yeah, the big show looks like Central America with the heavy rain. The Eastern Caribbean is looking like this. Tropical moisture will continue to affect the southern Lesser Antilles, Trinidad, Tobago area. And then this up here is some troughiness that's going to surge across the northeast Caribbean islands through December 3rd, 4th, and 5th. You can see Trinidad, Tobago here. We're backing off a bit on the moisture, about 60, 70, maybe close to 100 millimeters at times, up towards the northern Lesser Antilles as well. Some of these islands, St. Lucia area, could get close to 150, 160 millimeters of rainfall. And then looking into the Eastern Caribbean here, this is what we're looking at. Some tropical waves moving through the southern and central, even the northern Lesser Antilles. Trinidad, Tobago eking out, looks like close to 100, 125. Some of these areas close to 150 millimeters. Even up the island chain here towards St. Lucia, these areas upwards of 150, 170 millimeters. Look at eastern Puerto Rico here. This is interesting, right around 3 to 4 inches of rain. St. Croix, you're much lower, right around 1/4 to 1/2 an inch. All right, so looking at your moisture, mid-level moisture, this is the European model, by the way. So this is the model I'm more siding with this potential disturbance. You can see as we stretch through most of dry airs here across the northern Caribbean, but you do see even the Europeans showing a moist flow here in the far south, and that gets cranking a little bit towards the November 29th timeframe. Now, as we go further out here on our European run, you can see we do get some dry air towards December 1st and December 2nd. So that's what kind of cuts off our development here on the Euro. And then we do get a moisture flare up towards December 6th here across Central America. So Europeans much further south and weaker, which is kind of what I'm siding with. Still a flood threat potential through Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize, and up the Yucatan towards Cancun. Now, as we head to the upper dynamics, we're looking at wind shear. This is another factor that we're going to be looking at. So as we stretch through this week, wind shear is prevalent across the central and eastern Caribbean. Now, as we look towards that November 29th, 30th timeframe, there it is. We start to see a little slackening of wind shear. It's still in the 20 to 30 knot range, so that's why I'm still thinking development is almost next to nothing. Now, if this does manage to get quicker over this way, like the GFS is indicating, wind shear does slack into 10 to 15 knots here. So it may have a chance to try to hold its own, but look how quickly the wind shear develops back over it. Even into the Gulf here, say hypothetically this gets into the Gulf, we do have a little narrow window here. If we just back this up, the 3rd and 4th, you can see right around the time the GFS is showing this emerge along with the European model, which European keeps it over Central America. But even back here through the southern and southwestern Gulf, you get wind shear slackening to 10 to 15 knots. It really is a long stretch for the system to try to even think about development. Look how quickly the wind shear overtakes through December 8th here. It's mainly across Central America that you get below that 25 knot line. So here we are starting off with our future radar. As we continue through the rest of your Sunday, we're going to be looking at these snow showers kind of becoming a little bit stronger in nature as we head on into Sunday afternoon and evening. It starts to mix out to rain showers and some mixed rain and snow here. Burst of heavier snow over towards Boston right around 6 p.m. here. Snow showers continuing across the Hudson Valley, mixed with rain at times, the western Catskills, eastern Catskills as well, Pocono region. Then we start to get a lake response here. This is midnight, heading on into overnight on Sunday night. You can see these streamers trying to line up here, but for the most part, you can see not much to speak of as high pressure crests off the coastline here, and we get some nice sunny skies. This, however, moving into the Ohio Valley, this is going to be for your Tuesday. 7 a.m. Tuesday morning, you can see the rain pushing up through, even some convection down in through parts of the deep south here, parts of Atlanta. So we'll watch out for that. So as we look at the rest of your Sunday, severe weather is going to be prevalent here across western Texas. A slight risk to marginal risk here, so watch out. Damaging wind, large hail, isolated tornado cannot be ruled out. As we stretch on into your Monday, look at this. Eastern Texas through southern Arkansas, northwestern Louisiana, you're going to be under the gun, and that's going to spread eastward. Even some generalized thunderstorms Tuesday all the way up into the Ohio River Valley, but marginal risk here across the southern states and Gulf Coast states. Looking at our wind outlook here, yeah, it's going to be gusty here the rest of Sunday. Into Monday, you know that pressure gradient's going to be making your pain index go through the roof. There it is. So looking into Sunday into early Monday, things do try to even out, but we're quickly replaced by the next system. Thankfully, this is not as bad. Wind gusts of 20, 30 miles an hour at times, but mostly into the low 20s here. But the problem here as we head towards the day before Thanksgiving, look at these wind gusts into the 40 to 50 mile per hour range across parts of the northern Great Lakes here into the Midwest and into the Ohio Valley. This pulls to the northeast. You know the pressure gradient's going to be tightening. into Thursday, Thanksgiving Day. Your pain levels are going to be through the roof if you're susceptible to pain. Look at this into Friday as well. Those wind gusts right around 40, 50 miles an hour around the eastern Great Lakes, even into the 30s mile per hour range here. The Hudson Valley, Catskills, Poconos, Susquehanna Valley, that pushes to the east here. And look at this. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, Saturday, the pressure gradient even tightening along the coastline here with wind gusts approaching 50 miles per hour. Picking up where our feature radar left off here, you can see as we continue through the rest of the week, through the 24th, 25th, there's that storm moving through the Ohio River Valley up towards the southern Great Lakes. It is an all-rain event, but look it up here towards the UP of Michigan, eastern Minnesota, northwestern, and northern Wisconsin. That's where the heavy snow is going to set up. That's going to pivot towards much of Michigan as we stretch through the 26th here. Look at that rain-snow line moving eastward here as we stretch through the 27th. So as we stretch towards Thanksgiving Day, look at these lake effect snow bands setting up off Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, and even a connection to the northern Great Lakes as well. So the day after Thanksgiving in particular, that's going to be, look at that, north of Syracuse, right around Erie, Cleveland area, south of Buffalo. That's where the heaviest snow is going to set up through the 28th. It becomes more northwesterly here. So look at this. Our next storm barreling through the Midwest here and Mississippi River Valley. We're going to watch for snow breaking out. So it's turned colder here on November 29th. So here it is. Right after Thanksgiving, we're getting some snowfall here across much of Ohio and all the way down to Columbus, Cleveland, Erie, Buffalo. We're moving the snow into parts of the Northeast as well. It does start to weaken as it moves into this area of high pressure, but you see some pockets of sleet and freezing rain up here where the cold air gets trapped at the surface here. Now, that next area of low pressure, that's going to move from the plains up to the Midwest here, so that's going to move the rain-snow line further north and west here through much of southeastern Canada. So as we stretch through December 1st into December 2nd, we get another storm system moving through the plains here. Rain-snow line setting up across northern parts, central parts of Missouri through Illinois here. And that rain-snow line is just north of Cleveland here through northern Pennsylvania. We're looking at frozen precipitation up here across upstate New York. So yeah, could be sleet and freezing rain with heavy snow to the north of it, December 3rd into the 4th. So it's going to be really close. This low pressure has been bouncing around in this zone. So depending on the exact track of this low pressure system is going to depend on where this rain snow line sets up. It is interesting we're getting into these colder scenarios much quicker than last winter though with these storm systems. And that moves off the coast for December 4th. You can see there's that area attached to the southern part of that trough that we'll have to be watching in the tropics. Do I really think it's going to make it into the Gulf? Highly unlikely, but we'll watch it here. And if we just pick up where our feature radar left off here on the European run, you can see what we're going to be looking at Tuesday. We got the storm system moving across the Mississippi River Valley and the Ohio River Valley into the eastern Great Lakes. It looks like an all-rain event. Is it going to see a surge of warm weather? Some areas will be approaching the 60s. Look at this low up here towards Minnesota, UP of Michigan. That's where you're going to get blasted with snow. You see these isobars really intense, close together. That's where the wind is going to be howling. This is Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. So Thanksgiving Day, we're pushing this convection off the coast. The lake effect is really going to set off Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, Lake Superior up here. So watch out. We're going to be watching these lake effect snow bands as they become more northwesterly on Friday as this high pressure starts to build in along the East Coast for Saturday. It's going to be a cold high. You can see snow showers here in Erie on the northern edge of this next front. But watch this. Another surge of warm air pushing in for December 1st. This is a new development as another low pressure develops Tuesday, December 2nd here and moves into the northeast. Showers and thunderstorms likely. So this is kind of strange. We're getting these bouts. But on that northern fringe, look at all the way down to Oklahoma here. Where this rain snow line sets up is critical. We're going to have December 3rd, it's a Wednesday, massive cold high pressure across eastern Ontario here and western Quebec. That is going to set the stage for wintry precipitation on the northern side of this, potentially upstate New York through Massachusetts, parts of southern New England as well. Watch out. we could have this rain snow line set up much further to the south as we have plenty of moisture overrunning, maybe sleet and freezing rain as well into Thursday, December 4th, as this moves up and tries to go a little coastal on us. Now, high pressure will be building in. Another coastal tries to take effect, but you can ultimately see we're looking at colder conditions across the east as we head into the second week of December. And here we are for our snowfall amounts here on our European run. You can see over the next day or two, parts of the Adirondacks here, White and Green Mountains, 1 to 3 slushy accumulation of inches here. But then it's towards later Thanksgiving Day, Friday into Saturday. That's where we're going to get the lake effect here up across northern Ohio, northwestern Pennsylvania, upstate New York. Those normal snow belts here. Let me just zoom in. There it is. Erie, right around 10 inches. South Buffalo, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches. Jamestown, New York, anywhere from 7 to 11 inches here. Bradford and Warren, Pennsylvania, right around 6 to 8 inches. Cleveland, you're over here in the 4 to 6 inch range. So we'll watch you as well off Lake Michigan into parts of Michigan. Look at up UP of Michigan up here. Many areas approaching 12 to 18 plus inches. And here into northern New England, you're going to get your share as well. Some areas in the Adirondacks, northern White Green Mountains, northern Maine, upwards of 7 to 9 inches of snowfall here. Now, as we just continue to cruise along, we're going to watch the front part of the beginning of December here. We're going to see a surge of snowfall potential. Look at here. Some of this is not lake effect showing up. We may be seeing an area from northern Ohio, Michigan, over to upstate New York, over to New England here, where we see a good 6-inch snowstorm trying to develop here. Now, as we look at snowfall amounts here on the GFS, there it is, northern parts of New York, Adirondacks, White Green Mountains. Now, as we head towards Thanksgiving Day, there's that surge of lake effect. And then we do take a turn for the snowy up here across the Midwest. So, initially, I just wanted to show you the northern UP of Michigan. Look at some of these amounts. Wow, some of these amounts, 21 to 32 inches. Racking up those snowfall amounts. Now, as we continue through time, you can see as we stretch through the first part of December, we even in the plains out here, that's where we start to build the cold air in the snowpack. Parts of southern Iowa up towards 26, 28 inches. Here's the snow belts in northeast Ohio, especially there's Cleveland right around 3 to 4. And then east of Cleveland, 6, 7, 8. Inland here you have Erie, right around 3, 4 inches. But inland from Erie, 11, 12, 13, 14 inches. Jamestown, New York, right around 17 inches there total over the next 2 weeks. So we're going to line it up here around Syracuse area and up through northern New England to some areas 12 to 18 inches. And look at equivalent precipitation amounts here on our European run. You can see through the southern plains, Mississippi River Valley, Ohio River Valley. That's where the heaviest rain is going to be. Also eastern Great Lakes with that lake effect. As we surge into the first and second week of December here, we're going to be looking at a surge of moisture. Tennessee River Valley in particular. Look at this, and even into the red, 2 to 3 inches. So this is great news, especially for Ohio, parts of the southern Great Lakes where it's been dry. Look at here in southern Arkansas, right around 12 inches, eastern Texas, 10 inches, central parts of Tennessee, 10 inches. So it's going to be a broken record here. Along the East Coast, you'll have to watch out for some potential East Coast storms, coastal storms as well. All right, so looking at liquid equivalent precipitation amounts here on our GFS model, very similar to start out the European model. You can see heavy rain across the southern states. Actually, I would say the GFS is a bit further south and east on a lot of this. Look at this. Through the mid-Mississippi River Valley, through the Tennessee River Valley, we're showing a stripe of very torrential rain, 8 to 12. Some areas 13, 16 inches here. So this is concerning depending on where these storm systems line up. Here into the red, 2 to 3 inches. This would all be dependent on this tropical moisture that tries to get up into the Gulf. Do I think it's really a possibility? Not for development in the Gulf, but maybe some heavy tropical moisture moving up here across the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So looking at our polar vortex here, you can see it's consolidated right across north-central Europe here, the cell, so to speak. And as we continue to go through time, you can see that's going to drift more towards Russia. There it is, right around November 22nd, 26th, I should say. There's the 26th right up here. You can see the bend in these pressure contours, these height contours, so to speak. And you can see they're kind of bent across eastern North America. So that means we're going to see some cold air shots. Now, it does start to drift Saturday, November 29th, back towards Europe and it consolidates right across eastern North America towards November 30th. So that's that advertised big blast across eastern North America during this time. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. Now, as we go a little bit further out here, watch this. We're really going to get into a time frame here where we're going to start to see this polar vortex really consolidate, and there it is, moving towards the North Pole towards December 2nd, or 7th, I should say. And you can see it does lose a little bit of its influence here through December 9th, but you still see the bend in these height contours across eastern North America. That ultimately means that the polar vortex is getting ready. Once again, any cold air shots, it's going to come in waves, will continue to pivot across eastern North America. And before we continue with more weather coverage, don't forget, if you made it this far in the video and you like it, please, everyone, smash that like button. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I always love to respond and read your questions or comments. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe, bell notification button. Let's get to 22,000 subscribers. And always, if you haven't watched my 2025-26 winter storm outlook, what I think is going to happen for this entire winter, how much snow and cold many areas will get, it's a link in the description down below and at the end of this video. Let's continue with more weather coverage. Looking at our NAO index here, yeah, we're going to be right around, if you average it out, neutral. We will be negative and positive at times here, but as we go into December, we're going to be right around that neutral point. And looking at our MJO index here, yeah, things are going to really start getting active here. We're going from phase 6, and then pretty much all of December, we're going to be going into phase 7 and potentially towards the end of December into phase 8. So extremely active times are expected across eastern North America. And here we go for the upper air weather pattern here. So let's take a look at our height anomalies. We can get those to actually paint here. There we go. So look at this. As the trough moving off the East Coast for Monday, ridge building in across eastern Canada and the eastern United States here. This trough later on towards Thanksgiving Day. Look at this. This is what's going to set the stage for that big lake effect event. Also, polar vortex Arctic blast, the biggest one of the season so far. Ridge does build in the next week, though, as trough builds out west. Now watch that. That's like an inferno firecracker ridge, but then we do start to get some storminess. It is replaced by a quick ridge here towards December 8th, but I think things will start to, as this builds up here in the Alaska area, this massive ridge will start to increase the troughiness across eastern North America. All right, so let's look to the Western Pacific here. You can see what's going to be going on. We do have a little flare up east of the central Philippines here we'll be watching. Look how clear and dry it is up here. Much of China, northern Vietnam, all the way through the Korean Peninsula, eastern Russia here, and the Japanese islands. So we're just looking very dry. That's going to continue with maybe some flare-ups here towards the 25th, right around Japan. But watch this. We'll watch this little tropical wave move through parts of the central and northern Philippines. That's going to be moving to the north. I don't expect it to make too much headway here because you can see there is a trough kind of kicked out right around Vietnam here and all the way up towards the eastern part of the Taiwan area and Japan. So that's going to get caught up here. It may try to make a run. We have a cyclone over here towards India. We'll have to watch out for that. But look at this. This may try to make some impact here along the eastern and southeastern Vietnam coast here towards November 30th. But you can see most of the storminess for Synoptic is going to be up here into northern Japan. Look at that troughiness, keeping much of Korea, South Korea in particular, North Korea into China, very dry up here. So we're going to continue to watch tropical moisture across the Philippines, southern Vietnam area. Taiwan, for the most part, stays pretty dry through this forecast period, too, through the first part of December. And here we are for precipitation amounts here in the Western Pacific. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Northern and central Philippines, that's where the tropical surge of moisture is going to continue. Eastern and central and southern Vietnam as well. Up here into parts of Japan, this is mainly as we get into the first week of December, you can see surging moisture. You know, some of that's going to be snow from Hokkaido southward here. Now look at Korean Peninsula, mostly dry here through Shanghai, China as well. But here's the Philippines. Some areas getting upwards of 800, 900 millimeters of rainfall here. All right, so looking at our Canadian weather forecast, it does start out pretty dry up here for the most part, pretty quiet, but watch how things take shape here. As we get through Monday into Tuesday, we're going to see some heavier snow across southern Saskatchewan, Manitoba area. That pulls into the United States. Now watch as we set up for the 25th, 26th here. So we get into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday timeframe. We're going to watch this low from the United States blast up through eastern parts of Ontario, northern and central Quebec. That's going to bring some very heavy snow. Look how clear and dry it is from British Columbia all the way through the central prairies here, western Ontario. This low kind of washes out. You get that lake effect moving through here, the Great Lakes. But look, at really quiet as we stretch through the 29th into the 30th, just around the edges here, Prince Edward Island. Then we start to get this next Pacific system blasting in. It doesn't look like too much. It looks like a lot of the snow is going to be across southern Ontario, southern Quebec here as we stretch. This is December 1st. So we're starting off December, very snowy. We just go down through. It's going to be north of Toronto, Montreal area for this one. It looks like rain snow line moving to the northwest, but you get the idea here. Things are going to start really getting active. And as we watch through the December 2nd timeframe here, we're going to watch this cold high set up across southeastern Canada. We're going to watch for the potential of snow on the northern fringe of that next Pacific system blasting into British Columbia. And here we are for liquid equivalent precipitation amounts here across Canada, the west coast and the east coast. That's where we're looking at the most precipitation. You can see surging across parts of western British Columbia, even into Alberta here. So we're going to watch for some snow showers and some heavier snow as well. Eastern Ontario, Quebec, and New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland here. We're also going to look at 40 to 60 millimeters on average, 60 to 80 plus along the coastline here. As we look at those snowfall amounts here for Canada, yeah, it's the west coast and eastern Canada as well. We're really going to start to build a snowpack, so to speak. Look at this. Yeah, west coast, obviously the mountains, 60, 70 centimeters. Even into parts of western Alberta here, the Rocky Mountains, we're looking at, say, 15 to 35 centimeters. Then we stretch across the prairies. It's mainly the northern prairies up here. Southern prairies, a little bit. Southern Saskatchewan, Manitoba area, maybe up towards 10 to 15 centimeters. But look at southern Ontario here, even towards Toronto. Some of these areas looking at like upwards of 10 to 20 centimeters here, even over towards Montreal, Ottawa area, 20 to 30 centimeters. Northern parts of New Brunswick over to Newfoundland as well. Watch out. Snowpack will be building. Looking at our temperatures here as we go through the week, Monday, you can see pretty temperate here. This is actually above average, these 50s and even some upper 40s here into parts of the Northeast. 70s and 80s along the Gulf Coast. Pretty warm down here, but as we continue through Tuesday, you're going to notice this cold air surge. Watch this. This is going to be the theme. A surge of warmth across the east. Watch this for Wednesday as well. Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 61 degrees, 60 in New York City, but watch the bottom drop out here into the northern plains. 20s for highs into your Thursday. That's going to be spilling across the Great Lakes into parts of the Northeast. This is that well-advertised first Arctic blast that's going to really set up here. Parts of the Appalachians not getting out of the 30s as well for Friday. So look at that. So Thanksgiving Day into Friday looking colder across the east, and then we start to really build it here across parts of the northern plains, northern Rockies, where we drop down into the teens for highs. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers, beginning to the Scranton, Susquehanna River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. As we stretch through Thanksgiving week here, you can see we're going to be clearing Monday into Tuesday. Well, Monday, up towards 50, but Tuesday, this front moves through. So we're going to get some showers moving in Tuesday night as well, maybe up to maybe a half an inch here. Into Wednesday, it will be up near 60 if you have any Thanksgiving travel plans. And there's a chance of snow showers on Thanksgiving Day and Friday as well as we turn much blusterier and colder. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world.
And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than trilogymaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code.
As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone, share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.